the central government is trying to come out with a policy to ensure the government spending wisely and clearly. The government has recently launched a single nodal account dashboard. This is for all government payments, central government allocations, disbursements, for disbursement, implementation and verification of the expenditure. Reforms in public sector financial management system, that is PFMS, using digital innovations are getting mainstreamed. The government is trying to implement digitalization, as much digitalization as possible, to ensure that the amount disbursed has been reached and spent for the purpose it has been granted. Single nodal accounting, SNA, significantly enhances the effectiveness of the fund flow architecture of rupees 4.43 lakh crore of centrally sponsored schemes, are about 11.2% of the 2022-23 government budget. The purpose is to streamline the government expenditure and verification and ensuring that the amount disbursed has been used and spent in time for the purpose which has been allocated. The digital innovation is an important key in implementing the transparent expenditure flows and, more importantly, to enable just in-time release of money from the consolidated funds to the implementing agencies and beneficiaries. This policy change towards SNA single nodal account method and implementing digitalization, its purpose is to enable just in-time release of money so that the money flow is smooth, clear and verifiable for the purpose which was disbursed, which were allocated, disbursed and spent. Funds against sanctioned budgets are sent from the central to state governments in periodic intervals ahead of any actual expenditure being incurred by the latter, or on the submission of a statement by the state in the form of utilization certificate. Earlier, the central government used to grant funds to state governments to undertake various central schemes, central government expenditure, and obtain utilization certificate from the state governments. In the accounting parlance, once money moves from the consolidated funds, it gets booked as final expenditure. State governments too book this as final expenditure once they have been further disbursed. In this system, several challenges arise both in the accounting and accountability of these public funds. The existing system of sanctioning and disbursing funds by the central government to state governments and state government in return state governments to spending authority was causing a lot of confusion about the amount disbursed, amount spent, both in respect of accounting and accountability of the use of public funds. Utilization certificate is a document certifying that an expenditure has been incurred. Currently, the utilization certificates are themselves based on manual reporting of accounts, but not digitally auto-generated in tandem with the expenditure. At present, the utilization certificates are being issued manually and depending upon the spending of the funds. More importantly, the utilization certificates report aggregated figures with no traceable details of actual expenditure incurred. Many states do not even submit utilization certificates for some portion of the public money spent. This is also causing a lot of inconvenience to the central government for recording the funds utilization. Utilization certificates close to rupees 5 lakh crore remained outstanding in 28 states and union territories. Also, the traceability of money is also lost, as over 1/4 of the expenditure in several states is classified as other expenditures and open classification. This other expenditure, the nature of other expenditure in utilization certificate is causing confusion and Absence of details of amount spent. Tracking the public funding lying idle, typically referred to as parking funds or fund floats, also causing the utilization certificates is unable to, present system is unable to identify, to track the funds lying idle or the parking funds. At present, substantial funds float across all levels of the government, at the Government of India level, in the personal deposit and personal ledger accounts of state governments, at the local government level, which is likely to have significant development costs. There is still no systematic way of tracking and measuring the extent of this development cost. Spending through the direct benefit transfer program and reforms is a great reform so that the money allocated is disbursed and disbursed amount to reach to the person, to the beneficiary perfectly. The newly introduced SNA would also improve efficiencies through just-in-time funding under SNA, single nodal account. All government entities spending money would have zero balance subsidiary accounts with predefined drawing limits to draw funds against actual expenditures in real time, as and when payments are to be made to the beneficiaries and vendors. This would also lead to the generation of automated utilization certificates with greater details of the public money spent. SNA would enhance fund flow tractability in real time and potentiality reduce fund floats. Digital innovations need to organically. So this digitalization of funds flow and implementation of SNA method in spending government amounts and may result into detailed utilization certificates, automated generated utilization certificates, and details about the parking funds, idle funds, and also to track the flow of funds from disbursement to the actual spending. This new system, new SNA system will link all transactions along the expenditure chain from budgeting to sanctions, raising of invoices, approvals and payments, and monitoring simultaneously. Data standards and data registers would need to be put in place. These accounting reforms were recommended by the former Controller and Auditor General of India. Under Article 150 of the Constitution, to pass an enabling legislation called the Digital Accountability and Transparency Act. Digitalization for public expenditure accountability and transparency framework. The public expenditure reform process is placed under broad thematic areas. Number one, the public expenditure reform process is placed under 4 broad thematic areas: the integrity of the accounting framework, the efficiency in process, the payments architecture, the setup for institutional transparency along 14 different dimensions to bring about greater comparability, tractability, accountability, and transparency in public spending. A concerned effort to move the needle for reforms in public expenditure management would need efforts similar to those related to GST as well as political concurrence at all levels of government required. If these efforts are well coordinated, they will bring about path-breaking efficiencies in public spending in India. The purpose of reforms in public spending accounting is to ensure that the funds allotted according to budget, allotted funds reached to the designated authority, and allotted amount, reached amount has been spent for the purpose for which it has been allocated, the time in which it was spent, it was expected to be spent. All these purpose will be served by implementation of new reforms with SNA, single nodal accounting. The government is proposing to introduce SNA accounting method, single nodal accounting method for government spending and implementation of digitalization at many levels, at all levels of government spending to ensure the amount spent reached and spent perfectly for the purpose it was allocated and disbursed.